Hey, God bless, and thanks for tuning in once again to our New Life podcast. If you're listening to us, God bless. Watching us, of course, God bless you guys as well. Pastor Kerry, we are about done. I don't know if we'll finish today.
Yes, sir.
But we're going to try to. Talking about this New Life Leadership Guide. If any of you are interested in this, you can get on our webpage and download it, print it, just check it out, whatever you'd like to do. This is something that we use for our ministry. If you're not part of New Life Ministry, of course, you can possibly use some of this, adopt some of it to fit into your ministry as well. But if you're from Nueva Vida, New Life, then we'd really like for you to read this, study it. It gives you an idea of what we believe, how we believe, and how you can get involved and become a great leader. Pastor Kerry, God bless, man.
What's
good
up,
to
man?
see you.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, man. Everything good?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Doing good. And yourself?
I guess good, man. I guess you're getting ready for this new movie coming out.
Yes, sir. Lilo and Stitch.
All right, man.
I love Lilo. I love Stitch. Hello. Wow. I love Stitch. Stitch is the man.
All right, man.
I should have named my dog Stitch because he behaves like him.
Yeah, you should have, man.
Jeez.
All right, man. Well, we're talking about the last chapter, and like I said, it's a very important chapter. It's a chapter that I love to talk on, love to minister to some people on, and have had the opportunity now after 32 years of experience. I minister to a lot of young pastors, but a lot of assistant pastors. And I've had the privilege of doing I've done several pastoral sessions where I help young ministers get started in the pastoral area. And I'm doing another one this year, and it's really going good. We're really excited. We're in the part where we're actually listening to other pastors. You're going to come in, other pastors are going to come in, and then we're also giving them some practice. So some of these guys are teaching, and we're critiquing and all kinds of things. It's
Yes, sir.
really good, man. I love it, man. But it's very important. When we talk about assistant pastors, we're talking about youth ministers, maybe missions, children's ministers, worship leaders. Everybody that works directly under a senior pastor.
Okay. Yeah.
But especially those that maybe carry out some of the duties along with the senior pastor. It's a very important role. A lot of people make a lot of emphasis on the lead role all the time, but I'm telling you what, it always makes a difference of who the lead role has under him. Great assistant pastors are very important. And we've had the opportunity of getting that kind of experience, Pastor Kerry.
Absolutely. And it's biblical.
Yeah,
if you look
absolutely.
at leaders throughout history, and especially in the Bible, they all had great assistant leaders, pastors to help them.
Exactly.
Going back to Moses, he had great assistants.
Absolutely.
So it's so important to be great to assist the senior pastor.
Yeah.
In whatever area that you're leading in.
Yeah. Here's the thing about this. It's we got to be direct. We got to speak the truth. And if you need some more understanding, if you're an assistant pastor somewhere and you need some help, hey man, I would love to talk to you. But our job is to contribute to the team.
That's right.
Is to contribute to the team.
Yep.
Our talents, our creative abilities. Our job is to get the ball down the field towards the goal.
Great. That's great.
The problem comes, Pastor Kerry, when we forget our role. And I think that's where a lot of assistant pastors get stuck, or things blow up, or things get redirected, or sometimes we can get out of the will of God, is when we forget that role on our team. It brings frustration. It brings disillusionment. We get angry, bitter, and we can even lose heart completely. So always remember what your role is. Every time you get into that mode where maybe you feel the rug's been pulled from under you, stop. Think about, okay, what's my role here? What did I start? Okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. Get back in your lane and understand that role. It doesn't mean that things are going to change. It doesn't mean that God's not going to call you in certain ways, but there's a right way that God can call us, and it's not through rebellion. It's not through not being submitted to our authority. It's not through manipulation, deceiving, things like that. That is totally what the enemy wants for your life, and it can destroy you. God has a way of building you up and leading you the biblical way.
Yes, sir.
I give some things that I went through, Pastor Kerry, before we get set up on this, and people can read up on that, on how, Angela and I went through some experiences, but 31 years later, 32 years later, I can tell you, man, that God knew exactly what he's doing. And today I am so grateful that God led us this way and we were able to do this. So
yes, sir.
Number one, I'm going to start with this, and this can open up a can of worms, Pastor Kerry, and we can talk forever. But a great assistant pastor embraces, supports, and promotes the already established mission, vision, values, and philosophy of ministry of the church.
That's good.
Including the style of worship and the method of preaching.
Yes, sir.
So I got to say that because, like I said, there are some changes that come along the way. I mean, man, 32 years that I've been here, I've seen some changes.
Yeah.
I've seen some seasons, and there's things that Pastor has changed along the way. There's things that he's eased up on. There's things that he sticks to his guns. There's things that we have changed and things like that, and that's all great. But at the beginning, an assistant pastor will make the mistake of thinking he's the chosen one to come in and change everything, the worship style, the leadership, the this, that, whatever. No. You're coming to promote it, to support it, to embrace it, and to make it better. Now, along the way, it could change. Along the way, God could use you to bring an idea change. There's times where Pastor allows us to give him creative ideas. He likes it, and he says, hey, let's implement those. We implement them, and then along the way, change happens.
Yeah.
But it's always pretty much based on the vision that he has.
And the core values that we have and our beliefs and things like that. Like there's certain
Absolutely.
things like here within our ministry, we are firmly, like we stand firm in, we're not going to compromise the message. We're not going to compromise this. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
In order to reach people, like we're not going to say, hey, we're going to have beer at our church, right? In order to reach people, for the kingdom. Like we're not going to do that. Unlike some churches
we've heard that
who've
before.
Done stuff like
we've
that
gone to some
before,
conferences,
right?
yeah.
And we're not going to compromise who we are, and that's the importance of having getting behind your senior pastor, because he brings wisdom where you may think, oh, this will be great, but your senior pastor can tell you, like he tells us, like, hey, you know what? I would advise this, or look at it from a legal standpoint, because this is we could get ourselves into a legal bond. It's stuff that you don't see that he brings to the table that says, you know what, I've been doing this a little bit. I'm just telling you from the past, that can get us into trouble legally. And it's like, you know what, and I didn't even think about that. I've said that numerous times. I honestly didn't think about that. I'm glad I didn't get ahead of myself personally. I'm just talking about me. But that's why it's important that you embrace, like you said, you embrace, support, and promote the already established mission. Because understand, especially if you're like me, you're a younger leader. Or I'm 41 now, so I mean, I guess I consider myself a young leader here because I'm like the youngest person in our boardroom, right?
Exactly.
But if you're 40 and under, you're standing on the shoulders of men and women who have come before you. Right. And so all the more reason, like, hey, you're helping push what's already been planted, what's already been pushed, years of people who have sacrificed and have laid down, counted the cost. And so all the more reason to come along and embrace what's being done.
Exactly.
And contribute, like we said earlier, to the vision.
Yeah. You're called to help improve and better the ministry. Yeah. But you're not called to reinvent the ministry.
Yeah. Why reinvent the wheel?
Exactly. And here's the thing: if you are in this thing of, oh man, well, I'm here. You got to call me here, but I don't like the way they do the worship. I don't like the way the pastor did. Well, hey, listen, you signed up to help develop and better as we go. Yeah. But your job is not to come in and just change everything. And here's the thing, I'm glad you said something about legal matters, things like that, because later on I talk about the heaviness that there is on the lead role. Okay, I've experienced a little bit of the heaviness on the lead role pastor has allowed me to help them lead alongside with them, and then sometimes I've had to step in and then I'll step back and things like that. So there is a whole lot more pressure in that lead role, Pastor Kerry. So a lot of times us as assistant pastors in the ministry, sometimes it's easy for us to say, hey, let's just do this. Hey, let's change that. Hey, let's just tell that person, they're done. We're going this direction, this, that. Well, it's very easy for us to do that because we don't carry the whole load.
Mm-hmm.
When you're carrying the whole load, you got to say, wait a minute, put the brakes, man. It's not that easy. And I know we say that, and and some assistant pastors and ministers may say, man, we got to make the change sometime, Pastor. It's not as easy as you think, man. You need to hold on.
Yeah, and it's not fear; it's wisdom.
Exactly.
It's not fear, it's wisdom. You know what I'm saying? It's not fear that, sometimes you may think, oh man, we're just afraid. No, it's not that. It's wisdom. I think one of the things that I've learned over the years, I know one of the things I've learned over here, it's like, there's wisdom and understanding that God gives us when we want to do certain things within the ministry.
Yeah.
And so like even with, Saturday nights when we do it, I'm glad I didn't do it when I was 28.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things that I would have completely done wrong compared to, now 13 plus years, in the ministry, in the trenches here, learning our core values and standards. It's not like when we went into this, it was like when we went to the Saturday night service, it was like, hey, listen, remember, this is who we are as a church. We're not a separate thing. This is our service here within the church. And so I believe that's important. Again, it's a contribution to the overall ministry.
Exactly.
It's a contribution to the overall ministry. And that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, once hey, this is how pastor likes to lead the worship, whatever, God can always give you ideas on how to improve what he's doing or whatever. That God can use you to. I mean, it's just amazing if you go with it with that mindset and attitude.
And I would encourage every young leader out there, whether you're in this ministry or not, you're watching from another ministry. You want your senior pastor to support your ideas, your contributions. You reap what you sow.
Yeah, there you go.
You ain't gonna get the man behind you. You're not going to get the man of God behind you if you don't even lift a finger to help when he does an outreach event, to help when he wants to do this, or when he calls, hey, we're doing a fundraising or building fund project, and you haven't contributed one dime to the overall mission, But yet you're like, Pastor, we're wanting to do this. Honestly, right now, it's just not. I don't think it's a good idea right now. I think and you're like, man, he never believes in it. Well, when have you contributed?
Yeah, exactly.
In all honesty, you want him to put money behind you, and you haven't done this, that, whatever. And so I would just say, if you find yourself in that area, man, I would encourage you to change your attitude and change your perspective. Hey, look, the show isn't about you. You're not the main star attraction here. We're here to build the kingdom, and the man of God that God has put in our lives is there for a reason. Yeah. And so we're there to contribute, to help, and then watch what happens. Because Saturday services for us is a living testimony that Pastor, when we talked to him about it, he was like, yeah, I'm all for it, go for it. Yeah. But I believe it's because over the years, we've helped with whatever he needs. Whether it's Spanish service or English service or Wednesday night or outreaches or things like that. We really tried to help with whatever it is that he's asked of us.
And he pushes that Saturday service too.
Yeah, he does. And that's the thing, he absolutely does. He wants it to grow. He wants it to continue. As a matter of fact, like we've said this, he's like, I think you should do it more than once a month, things like that. And so, but, again, I believe that comes from supporting the man of God in your life. Exactly. You can't expect that. Honestly, you just can't expect that in return if you're not doing the same. Again, I believe you reap what you sow.
Exactly. I like that, Pastor Kerry, because my experience, I've seen a lot in these 31, 32 years that I've been here with Pastor, and I have seen a lot of young ministers who get frustrated, get upset, or for one reason or another, they cause division within the church. And here's a mistake they make. Then they go out and they start a church. And here's the thing. They have that honeymoon period where, man, things go great, it's wonderful, and the church is growing. But I always see how, like you said, what they sowed begins to be what they reap. And then I see their church getting divided once, twice, 3 times. I don't see it working. I see the frustrations. I see this, I see that. Because the thing is, they divided. They, even though they may say, well, no, we didn't. No. It was division. It was division. Bottom line. So now you're having to reap the consequences of that. And so be very, very careful that you don't just leave and there's not just conflict, but you leave and there's division, all kinds of things. You need to repent of that and make sure that your hands are clean, because it's not a very good way to start a ministry. And then also, what a blessing it is when you're able to be sent instead of you just cut ties. Yeah. When you're sent, man, you've got the backing, you've got the support, you've got the wisdom, you've got all the things that you need, man, to be able to be successful. Exactly. And the support.
Yeah, exactly. It's because that we've always said it like this. It's because that anointing flows from the top down.
That's right.
And so when you're sent, it's like, hey, that goes with you. That grace goes with you. That and everything that you've learned. And I would just say this too. I just want to add one last thing.
Yeah.
I know for a fact our senior pastor, he spends a lot of time in prayer. He's talked about it numerous times. Like, he'll wake up early in the morning and God wakes him up to spend time in prayer. I say that because a lot of times we are the answered prayer that God has brought us into our senior pastor's life to help him out.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And so all the more reason to understand, like, hey, we're here to contribute. We're here to embrace, support, you know what I'm saying, the overall vision of the ministry. That's what it takes to be, I believe, one of the things you talk about being a great assistant. And
here's the dangerous, Pastor Kerry. What happens is if you don't get in that mindset, that attitude, things like that, then you get this spirit that begins to creep in, and it all starts with, man, you ministering a really good message, or you doing something really well. All it takes is for someone to come along and they'll say things like, wow, that was excellent, man. You're such a great speaker, man. If you had a church, if you ever decide to pastor, which I don't see why they don't let you preach more here. Yeah. That's what they'll say. But these people won't. They'll follow you, but they won't stay with you, or they may not even follow you. So just be careful, guys. Don't let it get to your head. But then those seeds are planted. You have frustrations. You go home. You talk to your spouse about it. Then you start talking to people about it, then other people, and that's how division starts. So always remember that you're not called to lead this ministry, you're called to assist, okay? Always remember that, because it'll help you to stop that talking and that criticism and things like that. So if you can't embrace and the already established mission, the vision, the values, and the philosophy of the ministry of the church, you shouldn't accept the call, or you should, if you really feel called and you feel like, man, this is just not what needs to be done, you should try to start your own church with it, but on your own. Don't take who's already there. Don't take what's already established, so that you can find out. There's youth pastors that I've told, hey, you know what you need to do is, you need to try it. You need to go for it, man. Since you got it all figured out, and since you're so anointed, man, I think you should do it. Only because some along the way, after a few years, they're like, man, you know what? I realize now I should have been more supportive, or I realize now, man, this is not as easy as I thought it was, And so sometimes they need to step into that, because I've seen how some pastors that maybe didn't have too much success in their church, and they come under another pastor, they make the best assistant pastors, because they know, hey, it's not what you think it is.
And vice versa, like, to kind of in a sense compare that, maybe in your case it's not maybe a pastor, but it's like, man, they should do the children's ministry like this, or they should do the youth ministry like this. Okay, well, step into that lead role. Did you know the quote unquote lifespan of a youth pastor in America is only 18 months.
Wow.
And they only last a year and a half.
Wow.
Because they realize, this was much more than I thought it was going to be, right? And so what they do, they get out. And so in the same sense, like, listen, come alongside the person that God has placed there and help that person.
Exactly.
Just help that person. That's what we're called to do, the ministry of helps.
Exactly. Number 2, Pastor Kerry, a great assistant pastor works really, really, really hard. You touched on it just now a little bit. I'm not talking about overworking.
Right.
Of course, we've talked about that, and we've talked about getting away and relaxing and things like that. But when it comes down to doing something, when it comes down to that season, we should be the first ones.
Right.
We shouldn't have that attitude of, well, let's see how they do this, or hey, well, that's not my thing, so I'm just going to see what they do. No. Our job is anytime our pastor has a vision for something or is trying to do something, our job is to jump in there and be the first ones to support and to be there to help, to work, and to see how we can assist, make it great, So if you have that attitude of, well, the pastor's going to do this and he wanted to do that, I don't think it's going to work, but I'm just, I'm not going to go to it because I just no. Then you're not a great assistant pastor. A great assistant pastor will say, we'll listen to the vision, we'll get more understanding. If you don't have enough understanding about it, hey, talk, communicate.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the big keys, Pastor Kerry, is communicate. If you don't really understand, get the full picture of it. And then say, oh, okay, well, you know what can I do to help? I'll be there. I'll do this. I can do that. Wherever you need to fill in the gaps. I'm not understanding it all the way, but hey, let's do this. And along the way, you may get it. And you may understand. You may say, hey, you know what? This is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know what? This is going to work. Or hey, this is needed,
Mm-hmm.
But when you start getting that attitude of, well, yeah, they're doing that, and no, I'm not going, then that's not a good assistant pastor.
Right.
Your heart is being filled with something else.
Right. Absolutely, man. No, I 100% agree. Again, I know it may sound somewhat repetitive, but yeah, you come alongside and you help work the vision. You help contribute to the vision, and whatever it is that's being done, whether it's an event, an outreach, a specific service,
Exactly.
or just every week in and week out service on the weekend and the midweek service. Just wherever you're needed, hey, Pastor, what you need, I'm here. Because, as much as you may not believe this, but your senior pastor can't be everywhere at once.
Yeah.
That's why he has assistants. And so even like our other leaders in the ministry, they have teams that, they can't be everywhere as well. And so it's important to come alongside and say, hey, I can help with this or I can help with that.
Yeah.
I can be that person. And just being able to work really, really hard in those areas. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
And, if you feel that you're more creative, if you feel you're more in tune with things, hey, that's great. But use it on the positive side and say, hey, there's some things that I think could be done better in this way. Let me do that, or hey, can I tell you? How about if we can do this? Will that help?
Yeah.
Bring solutions.
Yeah.
Work hard and bring solutions. Don't just sit there and criticize the whole time, because it's so easy, Pastor Kerry. It's so easy to say, man, if I was a youth pastor, man, I would have done it that way.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or nah, the worship needs to step up. They need to. Well, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And here's the thing is, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of times, if there's an assistant pastor that just sits back and is like, well, I don't know how they're going to do it, this, that, whatever, and I just, I don't want no part of that, whatever. Wrong attitude to have.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it's your idea, when it's your creative idea, or whatever, then it's like you want everybody to support. It doesn't work that way. And people in the congregation will see that. They'll people aren't blind, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I go back to what I said earlier. You want eventually there's going to be something that God gives you that you can help contribute to the vision with an idea, event, or something. And you bring it and you're like, man, this would work great. And you may be right, it may work great, but the reason why you don't get, in a sense, like the response you thought is because did you contribute to the overall vision of the ministry before? Again, you reap what you sow. I'll give you a prime example. Obviously, I work really close with Andrew and Tracy, who's a couple here in the ministry. Anytime they really bring me an idea for Creative Faith Nights, I'm like, yeah, man, let's do it. But it's because also, too, man, like they're here early for rehearsals. They close up for rehearsals. They get here early for Saturday night. They help clean up, set up the stage, take the stage. Like, they help everything, instead of just hey, you guys do everything. Like,
Yeah.
they really work hard, man. Like, they really, really
Yeah.
do. So when they're like, hey, let's try this, I'm like, yeah, whatever you guys think is work, I'm cool with it. Compared to someone else to be like, hey, we should try this, but I'm like, yeah, but you don't help, man. You don't help set up. You don't help take down. As a matter of fact, when service is over, you're one of the first people to leave. Like, but you
Gone.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so work hard by
Yeah.
contributing to the vision.
Yeah.
In those areas.
Exactly. And we're going to get into some other things. We're going to have to do a part 2 just to finish this up. But work hard at creating solutions and not problems.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't be more of a problem. Be a solution.
problem,
okay.
be a problem
So
solver.
we're going to continue talking about this later on.
Yes, sir.
But we have a car show coming up June the 14th. The Saturday before Father's Day. It's a big thing. So let's do part 2 next week, and then let's get some people to join us on talking about what's going on in the car show.
Awesome.
Some things that are going on, things like that. And that way we can finish up and jump into that, man.
Amen.
But I'll let you finish it out.
Hey, man, thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. Again, all these podcasts air every Thursday at 7 p.m. You can catch them on our Facebook page, which is Ministerio Soma Vida, or on our YouTube channel, MNV Lubbock. If you haven't subscribed there, subscribe. Check us out every Sunday and Wednesday, and all our services are uploaded in the live tab, so you can check those out. If you want to hear this podcast on audio platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere there's an audio podcast platform, that is available to you. Just search New Life Podcast, and you'll see, the logo and everything like that. And so we want to thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight.
Yes.
We pray you guys have a great rest of the weekend, and God bless you guys. We'll see y'all next week.
God bless.